Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm taking you to the Open Great League, where a trainer is running their 3 Shadow Hundo Pokemon and getting some pretty ridiculous wins. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Von Hexagon, so many thanks for the battle submission. Leading off this team is Shadow Hundo Natu, a Pokemon that doesn't even get to 1300 combat power, then Shadow Alolan Geodude, and Shadow Alolan Sandshrew. Now, this trainer is playing around 2600 elo, so despite the insane team that they're running, these battles should actually be pretty competitive. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, Vaughn picks up a truly terrible lead, leading Natu into Alolan Sandslash. Instant save switch into the Sandshrew, opponent does not pivot out, and Sandshrew does have the pacing advantage, able to barely outpace and make Night Slash before Drill Run is available. Unfortunately, Drill Run would hit for devastating damage. Sandshrew puts up the shield as Sandslash full sends. Now Sandslash is going to pivot out and send in Charge Bug. So far, this game is off to a very rough start. What is Natu supposed to do against a Charge Bug Sandslash core? There's just nowhere it can go. Sandshrew gonna farm up, full send the Blizzard. Blizzard connects, and Charge Bug does get one shot. Charge Bug is gone, but back in comes the Sandslash, and if Sandslash can farm down, Sandslash is going to completely sweep this entire team. Sandshrew launches the Night Slash, shield comes up from the Sandslash, in comes the Natu, and unfortunately Natu's contribution in game number 1 is going to be getting one shot by an Ice Punch. Now this sets up Alolan Geodude to potentially go for a one shield farm down. Geodude really doesn't like having no Protect shields remaining, but Drill Run would hit for double super effective, so Geodude has to use the final shield here. Sandslash baits with the Ice Punch. In the back is Fearow, and unfortunately this game is over. Fearow's gonna outpace here and make it to the Drill Run. Geodude grabs the shield. Geodude waits the turn and catches onto the Sandshrew. Von Hexagon, what a play! Drill Run lands onto the Sandshrew, and suddenly there is life. Back in comes the Geodude, able to outpace and make the Rock Slide. It all comes down to this. Can Sandslash make a move? In comes Sandslash. It falls to the Volt Switch, and that is a good game. Picking up a terrible lead in game number 2, Shadow Natu into Wigglytuff. Save switch into the Sandshrew, opponent responds with a Toedscruel. And why are they switching a Toedscruel into a Powder Snow user? I know this is a Steel type, but the Powder Snows are absolutely shredding through Toedscruel's health bar. Sandshrew already at the back-to-back Night Slashes. First one got shielded, his second one gets shielded as well. Toedscruel will get a full farm down, but man, Sandshrew was able to put in an incredible amount of work there. In comes Natu. Natu gonna take massive damage from Wrap. Poor Natu really cannot do much. In the back, the opponent is gonna have a Volt Switch Fortress, and that's gonna be immediately met with the Geodude. Back-to-back games where the poor Natu basically can't really do anything, but it looks like the Geodude has quite a bit of play. Geodude gonna fire off the Rock Tomb, hoping this is gonna be enough to knock out Fortress. Fortress does have quite a bit of bulk, and Fortress survives. That is really not ideal. Geodude now forced to burn the final shield. Geodude is now double debuffed. In comes the Wigglytuff, and Geodude will fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide is going to do some pretty considerable damage. In comes Natu. Natu tried to make a move, but is unable to get there. However, with that little bit of peck damage, does this allow Geodude to farm down? Geodude does get the full farm down. The Fortress is alive in the back. Fortress falls to the Volt Switch. The D-Gen team gets taken down. Man, that was a very fun win. We move to game number 3, and what do you know? Shadow Natu keeps leading into the D-Gen Wigglytuffs. Wigglytuff this time going to stay and fire off a Resistant Swift. I mean, this isn't a Alolan Sandshrew, so it's still going to take some pretty massive damage. In comes Licky Licky, and this Blizzard is absolutely going to hurt. Do they respect the damage? They do not. The Blizzard connects. Licky Licky does survive. It is monstrously bulky, but now Sandshrew can shield once, Powder Snow down, and switch advantage will have been flipped. Natu is no longer going to have to be switch locked onto the Wigglytuff. Now it's going to be locked onto the Ludicolo, which honestly is not a better situation to be in. Sandshrew going to farm up to the Blizzard, bait with the Night Slash, get the shield, and then pivot into the Natu. Natu is taking so much damage from these Astonishes. Can Natu even survive a Weather Ball here? Oh my goodness, it can't. Natu, please lock in. Unfortunately, Natu really can't do much of anything. The other two are actually putting up a pretty solid fight in a lot of these games. But man, the Natu is struggling. Rock Slide will be shielded. Ludicolo gonna fire off the Weather Ball. This will pressure away the final Protect shield from the Geodude. Ludi is very close to the back-to-back, and that's gonna force the switch out. Sandshrew snipes with the Night Slash. This is gonna be knocking out the Ludicolo. All its energy is lost, and back in comes the Wigglytuff. Can Geodude hang on here to make the Rock Tomb? This is going to be close. Geodude gets there. Wigglytuff committed to the Icy Wind. They do not outpace. Rock Slide KOs the Wigglytuff. And somehow, despite zero help from Natu, this team just keeps getting wins. And man, that is another bad lead for Natu, this time leading into Empoleon. Geodude safe switch unanswered as the opponent stays in with the Empoleon and fires off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will grab the shield, opponent pivots into Altaria, and this is by no means a strong answer to Geodude. Geodude can for big super effective damage with the Rock Tomb, and Altaria's energy is walled. Geodude will also outpace, but not going to throw energy, instead going to be no shielding. This is going to hurt. That does quite a bit of damage. Geodude able to get the farm down and exit on very low HP. In the back, opponent has a Gourgeist. Why did they bring this into the Geodude? I guess they were so stun-locked by the fact that there was a Geodude on their screen that they did not bring in their Grass type. But that would have been a significantly better answer than sending in the Altaria. Opponent fires off the Seed Bomb with Gourgeist. They pivot back into Empoleon. And Natu does something for the first time this entire video, as Natu is able to force a shield. Empoleon get a fire off energy. This is going to be a bit of a tricky game, because you can't ever really Powder Snow down with the Alolan Sandshrew. A catch is going to be needed. In comes the Sandshrew. Sandshrew farming up energy, goes for the catch and gets it. In comes the Geodude absorbing the Hydro Cannon, and with that catch, this game should be won. Sandshrew farms up, plays to a CMP tie that it does not win, but still has the Protect Shield intact because the first Hydro Cannon was caught. So at this point, there's just no path forward for the opponent in this game. They are just simply too low. They send in the Gourgeist. Gourgeist gets Powder Snow down, and that's a good game. We move to the next match, Shadow Natu into Shadow Fortress. Even if this is Bug Bite, this can't be a good lead, but it's Volt Switch. Oh, Natu does not deserve this. Well, honestly, maybe Natu does deserve this. If Natu wins a lead, I will be kinder to Natu, but unfortunately for Natu's sake, Natu has been losing every single lead so far this video. In comes Quagsire, absolutely demolished by Blizzard. Sandshrew and Geodude have been the absolute stars. But man, I really wish Natu did something so far. Natu did get one shield from an Empoleon, and did absorb a Seed Bomb from a Gourgeist. But man, this is still looking like a very tough game to win. Okay, here we go. Natu getting the catch at the Sand Tomb. That is a double resisted catch. But now Natu is just getting absolutely melted by Volt Switches. In the back, the opponent has Dunsparce, and unfortunately, there have been some miraculous wins so far in these games. But this is where the win streak comes to an end. The Dunsparce is just always going to make it to the back-to-back drill runs and secure the win. The Dunsparce still has two shields to hide behind as well. Dunsparce fires off the drill run on alignment, but unfortunately, it's just simply not going to matter. The two drill runs are loaded. Geodude has been the absolute MVP with Sandshrew so far, but double super effective drill run, it was never going to be able to survive. We move to the next match. Wait, this is actually a winning lead for the Shadow Natu. I take it all back. Natu is the greatest Pokemon to ever exist. Now you might say, Henry, this is a Psychic type into a Dark Psychic. How is this a winning lead? Well, Natu should be able to win the shielded scenarios by just pecking it into range where Drill Peck will take the knockout. Opponent safe switches into a Licky, and this is where things could get very, very tricky, because Licky is going to be able to output a ton of damage with Shadow Ball. Geodude would love if the Rock Tomb was able to land. This would make life considerably easier, because removing Licky from the field of play is going to be very difficult for Spice teams like this. Geodude just going to be no shield in the Body Slam, getting knocked out here, but this is an opportunity for Sandshrew to get an energy head start. In comes the Sandshrew, sniping down with Powder Snows. What do they have in the back? They have a Golurk in the back. That is not a Pokemon I ever expected to see again post Mudslap nerf, but it's here, and this really might be one of the only Pokemon that Natu can beat. Natu get a shield, unfortunately will get outpaced by the Golurk here. Natu farms up, opponent tries for a catch, sends in the Malamar, but all they did was feed energy to the Natu, and this is Natu's game to shine. 9 minutes into the video, back-to-back drill packs. First gets the shield, second takes the knockout. I take it all back, Shadow Natu. Go off. Down goes Golurk, and Shadow Natu finally gets its starring moment. Unfortunately, as we move to the next match, it's back to business as usual. Natu stuck in a truly terrible matchup as it leads into Dunsparce. Dunsparce not a Pokemon that's played too commonly anymore, but is a really big problem for this team. Dunsparce will actually be getting buffed next season with the reworked drill run, so we could see Dunsparce a little bit more frequently. Unfortunately, Dunsparce, not only does it dominate the Natu matchup, which is probably the first time that sentence has ever been said, but it's also going to be able to grab a shield away from the Geodude. Geodude gonna shield once, exit with the Rock Slide loaded, which is quite nice, and now the opponent's gonna be sending in Tinkaton. This is rough. Tinkaton has access to Bulldoze that is for double super effective onto the Geodude. Geodude will get the debuff with the Bulldoze and go for a catch onto the Alolan Sandshrew. This is a -1 Bulldoze. It is still super effective damage. Bulldoze debuffs, and it's Togekiss in the back. The opponent running double fairy. Sandshrew gonna fire off Night Slash. Night Slash will land, and Togekiss get the double up. It's gonna be very close. It looks like they won't. Sandshrew will be able to knock out with a Powder Snow. Togekiss has the back-to-back Aura Spheres, but they're gonna die with it and be unable to get that second move. Unfortunately, even with all that energy lost on the Togekiss, this game is still going to be a win for the opponent, and that's because they can just farm down here. The poor Sandshrew spamming out Night Slashes, getting both Protect Shields, even getting the boost. I still don't think it's going to be enough. I have to hope it is enough, but realistically, there is just no way it ever knocks out, and Geodude is never going to survive a Bulldoze. Bulldoze knocks out the Sandshrew, in comes the Geodude, trying to get to the Rock Slide, but unable to get there. Come on, Geodude, please hang on. It gets one shot, and unfortunately, that game will end in defeat. Shadow Natu leading into a Wigglytuff once again. I am so happy Wigglytuff is getting nerfed next season. Opponent actually sends out a Stunfisk as a response to the Alolan Sandshrew, so clearly they don't actually have a great answer here. Sandshrew farms up, able to get the shield and get the boost with the Night Slash. Sandshrew didn't quite build up to the Blizzard, but I guess this player was assuming, as most people do, that people are not familiar with Sandshrew counts. Sandshrew could probably do a lot worse than going for a double shield and a full farm down just to try and exit with a ton of energy, because realistically, none of the other Pokemon have any kind of fast move pressure into Stunfisk. So, by double shielding the Sandshrew, the Stunfisk has been eliminated, and now there's a ton of boosted energy. Opponent brings back in the Wigglytuff, but there's a boosted Blizzard aimed at its location. Blizzard connects, Wigglytuff gets one shot, but the happiness is short-lived as in the back is Shadow Celio. Shadow Celio is kind of the perfect Pokemon for the opponent to have. Celio is an absolute nightmare. Sandshrew able to make the Night Slash. Oh my goodness, did they play to the CMP tie? If they did, maybe there's a chance, and they did. If they had just committed to the farm down there, the game was over, because there was no way Natu was surviving a Surf, and there was no way Geodude was surviving a Surf. The switch into the Natu. Did Natu catch the Surf? It probably one-shots if so. Natu did catch the Surf. Back in comes the Geodude. Geodude farms down. How did that game end in a win? The Celio definitely should have swept. But this team just time and time again just keeps finding ways to escape danger. They're going to have a pretty decent lead in the next match. Natu into Quagsire. But a Furret save switch is going to be a massive core breaker for this team. Furrets have ditched Trailblaze. They are now running Brick Break. And that means Brick Break will hit for massive damage into the back two Pokemon, and Sucker Punches will shred the Natu. This is realistically a Pokemon that this team has basically no play into. Geodude was able to neutralize it, but at the cost of giving up a shield, and now surrendering a massive farm down over to the Quagsire. The Quagsire will exit with quite a lot of energy. In comes Sandshrew, reading the switch out from the opponent, and that proves to be a very wise call. The opponent did not want to stay in the matchup while debuffed, so they pivoted out, but now Sandshrew is up a turn and gets a boost. Unfortunately, Sandshrew pivots out of the boost and sends in Natu, trying to catch an Aura Sphere, but the Aura Sphere catch was unsuccessful. Natu able to grab away a Protect Shield, but even a Psyshock, it's resisted. It's still going to be knocking out the Natu. Back in comes the Sandshrew, forced to burn the final shield, but there's so much energy stored on that Quagsire. Unfortunately, the Natu, I think, had to be preserved, but wait, maybe there's a chance. Does Night Slash knock out here? Come on, Sandshrew. Night Slash lands. It gets the boost, but it's on 1 HP, and I think Quagsire has 2 moves. Aqua Tail lands. There's Aqua Tail number 2. Man, that is as close as it can get. So close to pulling off the impossible, but it just was not enough. Hopping into the final match, speaking of impossible, Natu leading into Empoleon. Natu throws a peck, save switches into Geodude. Geodude lands 2 Volt Switches, but immediately has to surrender a Protect Shield. Empoleon's gonna look to pivot out, sending in Wigglytuff. Oh my goodness, there have been so many Wigglytuffs in this video. Again, a Pokemon I am exceedingly happy is getting nerfed next season. Wigglytuff will put up the shield. Geodude makes the Rock Tomb. This Rock Tomb, I don't think it's going to knock out, but it's going to do a lot of damage. Rock Tomb is going to be shielded. The opponent double shielding. Going to send in the Sandshrew, and the opponent probably went for the blind Icy Wind, expecting the Natu. No, they're on Dazzling Gleam. What is this? Why is there a Dazzling Gleam Wigglytuff? opponent pivots out, they send in Empoleon, but Empoleon will take some pretty nice damage from Night Slash. Night Slash connects, unfortunately not enough. Able to make Night Slash number 2, all of the energy now down the drain for the Sandshrew, but neutralizing the Empoleon is a very important step towards winning this game. Opponents waiting down the timer, they're bringing back in the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff fires off the Swift. Sandshrew will put up the shield. Can Sandshrew ever commit to the farm down? No, that's not a Swift. They went for the Icy Wind. Sandshrew trying to farm. They send in Altaria. They try and catch a Night Slash just to get one hit KO'd by a Blizzard. It's all going wrong for the opponent. In comes Natu. Natu pecks down. And that is a good game. Man, these battles were an absolute roller coaster. I would say I don't think I've ever seen that many Wigglytuffs in my life, but I definitely have every day in the Go Battle League. Wigglytuff is kind of a scourge on the Great League, and while I don't expect it to fully go away next season, I'm happy it's finally being reined in. For too long, Wigglytuff has just completely overrun the Great League meta. They reworked Charm, and we had hoped that it would be a nerf, but it ended up basically being maybe even arguably a slight buff to Wigglytuff, so Wigglytuff just never really left. So, me personally, I'm pretty happy that we're hopefully going to see less of Wigglytuff next season, but man, this team was an absolute riot. Now, I'll admit, maybe I was too harsh on Shadow Natu. I just wanted to see Shadow Natu win a single lead, and it did eventually. Natu did eventually win a lead. Natu into Malamar. Natu being able to win the 1s and the 2s there, and taking a knockout to actually clutch an endgame. Natu did have its moment to shine, but man, the Geodude and the Sandshrew were putting on an absolute clinic. Battle submissions like this do remind me of Jamie Finn. I believe he's now since retired, but I do enjoy a good triple Shadow gameplay every now and then, and this was an absolute riot, so many thanks to Von Hexagon for sending in these battles. Now, if you'd asked me at the start of this season if I thought I was going to be featuring Shadow HUNDO Alolan Geodude twice in a week, I would have thought you were lying. I never would have believed it, but hey, these battles were so fun that I couldn't pass them up, even though I had featured Geodude so recently. The fact that there was a Natu and a Sandshrew on the team, a trainer saying, you know what, these are my 3 Shadow Hundos. They might not be the greatest in the Go Battle League, but I'm going to run them together and see what happens. And hey, they were able to get some pretty sick wins. I think my favorite was probably the 2-turn wait into catching the Drill Run onto the Sandshrew against the Fearow in game 1. That win was absolute filth. That was awesome. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. My metrics say a lot of people watch the video and are not subscribed, so it's worth scrolling down a little bit and making sure that you are subscribed with notifications on. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.